Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. We make atmospheric, live, role playing, live stream things. And you're watching one now. We're going to play Vampire the Masquerade V5, our Chronicle London Ascendant. And before we get into anything else, before I start blabbering with professional storyteller cliches mixed with a little bit of back pain, I will introduce Steve, our stream manager for the evening. Hello, Steve. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
Steve tinkers away behind the scenes. He wields the ban hammer. He wields the cam hammer, and the image hammer. That doesn't work. And does so wonderfully so that I can focus on telling stories. Isn't that right, Steve?
That is absolutely correct. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you. And so do you, mate. So do you. Steve will bid us adieu for now. And while I do my blurb pre roleplay session and stuff, let's bring up the relationship map for Vampire. Because who wants to look at my face when you can look at the relationship map while I talk to you about stuff? So first off, we've got social media and links and all that good stuff. Check them out below. Where we've got a YouTube where all the VODs for our sessions are stored, so you can watch stuff from the beginning. We've got social media, which is usually, but not always, Telling Tales RP. We've got a Patreon. Why not support us if you love us? We've also got other streams other than Vampire. On Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock GMT, we play Symbaroum, the wonderful dark fantasy system from Free League. And there's even more Free League coming this week because this Saturday we're running our first one-shot stream, a longer single story session of Alien, as in the Alien franchise. And yes, that's also by Free League. Come join us at 3 o'clock GMT on Saturday afternoon for that one. It'll be good. Some of the folks, the fine folks here on Vampire are in that as well. And if you want to check out what it might be like, we've got a little teaser video that we streamed earlier today. So right here on Twitch, so you can go check that out. But with no further ado, let's start introducing the players and recapping last week, because I've talked for quite long enough. We'll probably not talk again for the whole session, I'm sure. So first off, let's bring on John. John is our first player tonight. John plays Arthur, our Ventru pharmacological peddler. Last week, everyone kind of went off and sort of did their own thing to a certain degree. What did Arthur get up to?
Well, Arthur was very kindly accompanied by Alex on his trip to Soho on the way to use Oscar's computer as kind of the only computer really available to the coterie. Unfortunately, as we soon found out, it was practically a brick, and it worked. We managed to access the thumb drive that Jack had given us, which had a number of files on, and a video file that we have no idea what it is because Oscar's computer won't run it because it's ancient. But the files seemed to be maybe every kindred in London, or at least a number of kindred in London. Just basically personal files that Jack had, like notes that Jack had put together in some sort of strange code or shorthand. So we're going to put that on the back burner until someone can figure out how to speak Jackese. Arthur and Alex were then going to go club the night away at an exclusive after party when Arthur had a little bit of a nosebleed or a mild case of stigmata when Alex kindly donated their blood to see Arthur through the night. And then they went back to the Haven.
That just about covers it. So last week as well, we talked about two factors of the characters which haven't really talked about much before now, which are ambitions and desires. Ambitions being long-term goals, desires being short-term ones. What are Arthur's current ambition and desire?
So my current ambition is establishment, which in a sense means putting down roots in London, or establishing my herd and my supply and whatever that. And my desire is making contact with a new supplier, which I was trying to do last week, but the nosebleed got in the way and I had to go change because there was blood everywhere.
Sure. So let's bring on our next player, Justin. Justin plays Mandrel, our Nosferatu architect, crafts lady, and sort of the slightly rebel-y one of the group, slightly a bit on
That's
the
certainly
down
how it's
low.
interpreted.
Yeah.
Like I think I just have a different way of conforming.
Yeah, that seems about right. So what did Mandrel get up to last week?
Well, last week my ghoul Chuck showed me a nice sleep therapy clinic which I could use to feed that currently they had been bribing their way into, but there'll be ways in the future to maybe make that an easier thing to access.
Absolutely. And Mandrel's current ambition and desire?
Well, as we talked about at the end of the last session, my current ambition is to rebuild London. And I have a desire right now to finish setting up the Haven security system.
Yeah, that rebuild on, and specifically the kind of vampire establishment of London.
Yeah.
And their safety. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's bring on our third player. Let's bring on Pierre. Pierre plays Oscar Kane, our resident Tremere antiquarian and power-hungry goofball. Walking mean. What did Oscar Kane get up to last week, Pierre?
So I wanted to find out a little bit about what it means to be a Tremere, and I had previously been contacted by one of the Tremere in London, who goes by the name of Aish, and Aish had invited me to what I assume to be her territory to chat about some things. I went along in, it was a pub that, seemed like a totally ordinary pub. We went in, I was very inconspicuous in terms of ordering drinks and such. And then we went into a back room and started chatting about who I am and where I come from. I learned a bit about the Tremere, and Aish gave me a few pointers on maybe a direction that I could go that is perhaps different from the Tremere on this mission, or at least the historical trend of the Tremere. She also gave me some things to think about and some offers to consider. I then I sort of pledged a little bit maybe to be of service, and then I proceeded home. I initially thought I was going to go hunting, but I thought to ask, is this actually your territory? To which she responded, no, which meant that if I had done that, I would have been in very much trouble, but I wasn't. So everything worked out swimmingly.
So a real break of habit for Oscar there.
Yeah,
everything worked out swimmingly. Yes. So speaking of foresight, what are Oscar's ambition and desire currently?
So my ambition is to become a leader of vampires. Don't laugh. And my desire is to figure out some leverage over somebody called Henry Mears. And I guess you'll probably find out why.
What a segue. Because here to talk to us about Henry Mears is our final player, Neill. Neill plays Alex, our Malkavian prophet of doom. Very polite prophet of doom, though. And what of Henry Mears?
Well, Alex had been having a charming, if eventful evening with Arthur, but when we returned to the Haven, we found a man with two muscle men, let's say, demanding entry to our haven, somewhat rudely saying that now the real people were here. He was fed up of dealing with the mere help. He looked at us, introduced himself to Arthur, looked at us again, introduced himself to Oscar, looked at us again, introduced himself to me, if reluctantly, and then ignored Manuel entirely. Alex felt that this was most rude and unkind, and insisted with something approximating the facial expression you see on screen, suggested politely that this was Mandrel's home and that Mandrel was our leader, and that by snubbing her, he was not being a good guest. He acquiesced reluctantly, and then as Alex showed him in, acting a good host for our good and dear leader Mandrel, pointed out the various piles of rat feces and pools of stagnant water filth that he should just step over on his way to our decrepit conference room. The conversation was then somewhat more buffoonery from this buffoon that we had before us. He said he was going to be prince, that we should support him, that we should pass on the message to the elders, and seemed somewhat to get on Alex's nerves. Fortunately, he departed in not as quickly as could have happened, but it could have been a lot longer.
Absolutely. Not least because I always enjoy playing characters that everyone hates. So, what are Alex's ambition and desire?
Well, Alex's ambition is to retake London, and Alex has a perfectly normal interpretation of that, as I'm sure you'll imagine. The desire is an important conversation that Alex was hoping to have in the previous session with Arthur. Alex wishes to have that conversation in full, in privacy.
Absolutely. So we'll pick up more or less where we left off then. Just one quick thing before we start is we frequently make rules errors here. We run a lot of systems, and things get glossed over in the heat of the moment. Oscar has a lot of aggravated damage at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think last week we let Oscar heal a point of aggravated damage for rousing the blood over one night. It, in fact, requires 3 rouse checks to heal a point of aggravated damage every night.
Wow.
We'll give you the one we did last week. We won't have a do-over.
Okay.
But for future reference, it's a lot worse than 1 rouse check. So,
Lovely.
Yeah, that's
Sucks.
exciting, isn't it? Yeah. So, with that in mind, I see no reason not to pick up exactly where we left off in Down Street, the disused tube tunnel station that serves as your haven. And I believe there were plans to go dancing for the evening, at least from 2 of your party, Alex and Arthur. But I feel it's fairly appropriate that you guys can have a bit of a chat about what to do with the rest of your evening after the departure of good old Henry Mears.
So, we haven't exactly made the best of impressions.
Neither did he.
Yes, exactly. Good Arthur. I think that Dr. Norris has hit this on the head. Whilst we made a charming impression that was somewhat spoiled by the initial greeting, he may not be our first candidate for support. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be likely. But, it's not for us to tell our betters what news they should and shouldn't receive. So I do think we need to pass on some message.
But of course, Mandrel, we should never deprive that knowledge to our elders, but we can give them our sage advice along with it. We can tell them the story of how he came in and demanded to be recognized, demanded his inclusion, disrespected all the rules of the compact, failed to be a good guest.
Surprisingly, I actually think I agree with Alex.
Alex looks askance at this surprising word.
I love how fast Alex... Well, Alex forgot that Alex left Oscar for dead the next time Alex saw Oscar not dead. So I suppose it's not one night, a couple of nights later isn't too much of a surprise.
But yeah, I do agree that perhaps we should have some say in who at least some of our betters are. And it sounds like this...
Ooh.
Henry fellow
Dangerous
is
thinking.
trying to perhaps become the highest there is, or is there a king above Prince?
No, just
No.
the prince. I do wonder, what would the others in the compact think if they heard that Henry Mears was setting himself up as prince?
Well, maybe they already know. It seems like he doesn't have a lot of tact. He seemed to kind of very quickly crumble to our requests for more information. If we know about it, perhaps all of London does.
I mean, he was
But-
advertising it openly.
That's all the more reason to make sure that this very commonly shared information is relayed to the landlords, to show that we would give them that information, even if they already know it.
Exactly, we must be good and kind to all of the gracious hosts of kindred. Why, we are just simply sharing the message Henry wishes us to share.
While I
Proclaim.
agree, I would advise against. How do I put this?
Overt aggression.
I would say giving information to the landlords that certain of our Camarilla elders may not.
Stuff that
Is there
they
anything?
We don't want our elders thinking that we're cozying up to the landlords.
don't- Okay, so first we should contact them, the elders.
Oh
Yes.
yes.
And hopefully they will likewise instruct us to sound out the landlords as to the situation. In fact, this may be the best way of doing it. We should contact the elders and offer our services in finding out the mood of the other landlords. The elders may not wish to move actively against Mr. Mears if he is loved and respected by all. Or
Yeah,
they
it's
may wish to support him.
It's a lot less noisy if we're the ones asking questions than if they're telling. Yes, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea, Alex.
Okay.
So it sounds like, I'm not rushing you along, but the evening is moving along, and if you want to get to that after party, you're going to have to get moving sooner rather than later. It sounds like the coterie is coming to the conclusion that a message should be sent to the elders, flagging up Henry's intentions, and also offering to quietly and politely take the burden of informing the covenant. The compact, rather, of landlords, London's sort of loose arrangement of the remaining surviving territory holders of the kindred, to let them know of Henry's intentions quietly.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is going to take the responsibility of writing this missive?
Well, your Google is our messenger, Oscar.
Sure. I'll write this message.
May I suggest that whilst you are undoubtedly the best of us to write it, that we all review it before it goes over, as we know our respective elders' idiosyncrasies and how they may see it.
I would appreciate that, Alex.
Okay. Between the four of you, you put together a perfectly satisfactory seeming message. I see no reason to roll for it or anything like that.
In my beautiful handwriting.
Absolutely.
Alex will compliment that.
I would expect Oscar to definitely have the most beautiful handwriting of the four of you. And then presumably going to send Arshad off to destination unknown with the message for you.
Yeah. I'll probably, when I see him even holding the piece of paper, and I'll sort of be like, Arshad?
Hello, Oscar. What can I do for you?
Hey, Arshad. It would be really handy if you could deliver this to the elders. That would be just as a favor to me. That would be really nice.
He stands up, beaming, takes it from you and tucks it into kind of his satchel that he has, and says, "Yes, straight to Mistress Casimir, of course. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you." And
no need to thank me.
Walks out of the room, very kind of intent on where he's going, and
I almost flinch as he passes.
Heads off up the main stairs and out of Down Street. So, as for the rest of the evening, obviously, I know that Arthur and Alex want to go to this nightclub, and Arthur then on to the after party. But what of Mandrill and Oscar?
Oscar?
Well, I was going to consult with. I was going to consult with Mandrill about whether she's seen the thumb drive, or if I don't know if they've left it. Actually, that's the thing. The other thing
I haven't seen it. I last time I thought it was with Arthur.
And you don't suppose he left it anywhere around here?
Well,
I think it's safe to say that Arthur and Alex needn't have left Down Street yet.
Okay.
let's Arthur. Have you left the thumb drive somewhere?
Here, why?
Oh, cheers, thanks.
Well, I'm going to go. Well, Oscar seems to. There you go, Oscar. You can hold on to it for now. Oscar seems to be interested in it, and I'm going to go out and buy some computing resources for the Haven.
That seems like a very good idea. There's a video file on there that your computer can access, Oscar.
What?
I
My
know,
computer's
it shocked me.
perfectly acceptable as a.
My computer has the Netflix.
Yes.
Does it?
Does it?
And the
Does
YouTube.
it? Maybe the CD version of the Netflix. When
It's got my email on it.
Also, it's worth warning you, the files appear to be in some kind of shorthand. I don't
When
know
eyes
if it's
light up.
Nosferatu standard or something
Oh,
else.
I'm
we can
sure
have a go
we
at,
could
but
have a go at that. Oscar, is there anything
should.
else that you were going to do this evening that would occupy you otherwise than assisting me in purchasing some equipment and maybe decoding some messages?
Aside from that, I was wondering, assuming that Henry Mears is not some sort of Nosferatu, I was wondering if there is any way we can find more information about him. Sorry, I say Nosferatu, some sort of Jack-like figure who can appear behind me, but I'm willing to take this risk because I must.
I
was
can
worth
call
noting.
from the bathroom. There's a file for him on the thumb drive. Wiping the blood off my face.
Excellent.
2 birds with 1 stone. Brilliant.
While we're on the topic of preparations as well, I can't remember if last time Alex had you, because you were going to drink, I believe, some blood from the blood bags.
I drank I think I drank a single point.
Okay, that's all.
I think I already marked it off, didn't I?
I did as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so in summary, Arthur and Alex back to Soho. Mandrill and Oscar somehow acquiring computing hardware at 12 midnight. Yes.
It won't be a problem.
Just before we leave, I'd like to try and take Oscar aside for a moment. Very
Sure,
briefly.
go for it.
Not in some kind of great hidden secret way, just
Okay.
corner of the room.
Because that's how you avoid Mandrill realizing it's a hidden secret.
Yes. Oscar, I feel regrettably that there is some tension between us, and whilst I must go now to solve certain issues, it would delight me if we could talk about this perhaps at the end of the evening or tomorrow, whichever is more convenient for you.
Either works for me. Let's see what's most practical.
Excellent. Well, best of luck. I have every confidence in your ability to decode the Jack-like scroll.
Thanks. And I have every confidence in your ability to party.
I fear that partying will not be the aspect I am there for tonight, but thank you.
If only I had £1 for every time I've heard that.
I trust you can party.
So, let's go with Arthur and Alex first. So, let's shoo Justin and Pierre lovingly off screen. And Arthur and Alex head back over to Soho, which is not a far distance from Mayfair. Along the way, you certainly walk down your share of fairly empty streets. So I don't know if Alex wants to carry out the conversation with Arthur that he was planning, or
no, because this is a public place.
sure, yeah. So in that case, you arrive at the nightclub in fairly short order. The nightclub's name is Valiant, and the outside of it has been is rather garish. It's trying to be classy, but the end result is garish. It's in a very new build structure with no windows. Basically one huge box, a single set of double doors that you can see that has a small queue outside it and some bouncers. And then overhead in sort of silver neon is the word Valiant with like a sword threaded through the V. And you think it's basically some kind of nouveau riche's idea of classy, but it's quite a long way from hitting the mark. But the clientele seems fairly bohemian, shall we say. It's a gentrified nightmare. Are you going to queue up, or is Arthur going to try and pull any? Or Arthur or Alex, for that matter, going to try and pull any tricks?
I don't queue. Yeah, I'm going to the front of the queue.
I will follow, quickly getting the impression that I need to look like some kind of important, aloof individual.
Excellent. The bouncer just kind of lazily flicks his eyes over to you, obviously waiting to see what nonsense you're going to come out with.
I'm going to turn on awe and say, "Good evening. I believe I'm meeting someone inside."
Okay. So does awe come with any roll? It simply boosts your social roll, right?
There's a thing for if it's opposed, but I think that might just be against kindred. But yeah, it just adds presence to any charisma roll, basically.
Okay. Well, I would say that what you're doing is pretty much a manipulation roll, not a charisma roll. It's not just social, is it? It's specifically charisma.
It's specifically persuasion or performance or any other charisma roles the storyteller wants it to be.
Oh, okay. Well, those needn't be. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a persuasion roll. Manipulation plus persuasion, and you can go ahead and add your aura to it. And you know what? What bonuses do you get for your stunning good looks, Neill? The character.
Well, in real life, no. Alex receives a 2 dice bonus.
You know what? Take that. And I know it's weird to add it to someone else's roll, but hey, let's go crazy.
That is fair, but I will also probably take one away for my disliked quality. Because I don't think this guy is part of my social group.
He is definitely not, no.
Oh no.
And this guy's heard it all, so I'm looking for. I'm setting the difficulty at 3, I think.
So there's a guaranteed 5 successes, and currently a messy critical. Sorry, 6 successes, and a messy critical. I think I'm going to willpower to try and.
Willpower won't take away your messy critical, will it?
It'll take away the critical side of it. As in, isn't it?
Because if there's a 10 on a black die, you can re-roll the 10 to not get into the critical.
Yeah, but presumably if it's a messy critical, you have rolled a critical anyway on a hunger die.
I have 1 10 on a hunger die and 1 10 on a regular die.
Oh, I see. So you're trying to get rid of that 10 and hope you don't roll another 10.
Yes. But I can re-roll as many dice as I want, right?
It somehow feels weird to willpower away from a success, but I think it's fine. If it's you're willpowering, you're fighting the beast down, right? So
yeah, I'm trying to be subtle about it.
Sure, yeah.
Subtle with a sledgehammer.
Okay, that's just 7 successes in my pool of 9 dice.
Just 7 successes. Fair enough. He kind of squints at you a bit and says, "Oh, you must be here to see Harry. All right, go on in."
Thank you.
You enter Valiant. It is exactly as you thought it would be from the outside. It is a large single room with a very heavily populated dance floor. Remember those? With a bar over on one side that has, about rows of about 7 people back queuing to be served. Everything is slick and shiny, kind of metallic surfaces, and everything is lit with neon. It's playing some kind of whatever is, R&B that's riding high in the charts at this particular point of time in the world of darkness. And overhead is like, when kind of you've got an upstairs that isn't taking up the entirety of the floor, right? So about half the floor of the upstairs is like the offices or the backstage section, and there's a set of stairs up on one side and some windows there, and you can see some people who look even more richly dressed than the people dancing and drinking downstairs, kind of occasionally glancing out of the window down at the slightly less affluent people down below, and the whole place, it stinks of cleaning fluids and alcohol and human life.
Is it fair to assume that the upstairs should be where I should probably be heading?
That seems like a very safe assumption. You think that the after party kicks off before the club closes, which doesn't seem to make sense, but there we go. It was labeled as starting at 1 o'clock, and it's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning now.
Right. Well, Alex, this may be where we part for the night. Be good.
Are you sure you would not like someone to watch your back in these troubled times?
That is very kind of you, but I'm afraid the group can be quite flighty with outsiders.
I understand. Shall we meet back here before the club closes to have our chat in a private area?
Yes, I suppose I can pull myself away.
That would be most kind. I am very grateful.
Okay. So, Arthur, you have been invited to this after party. You head up the stairs. Mention your name. Are you using your mask rather than your actual name? I mean, I would imagine that's the case.
Yes. I think the guy who invited me, well, he at least knew my face. I don't know whether he necessarily knew my name.
Sure.
But I would have at least given him my mask name.
Sure.
For this purpose.
Yeah. And what is your mask name again?
Charles Sherwood.
Charles Sherwood. Charles Sherwood is granted admittance to the after party, and in you go. Alex, in the meantime, I think there was talk of hunting.
There was. That is definitely what I'll be doing.
There was. Okay, we'll go ahead and make your... I think you're going to use siren tactics.
Yes.
Which can always lead to interest in public places. But go ahead and make that the difficulty for hunting in this club is 3.
I am considering whether to blood surge or not, as 3 is cutting it a bit fine, even at 3, and I'm hungry. I'm going to blood surge on the grounds that I can always hope. At most, I'm only still gaining a hunger if it works.
Yeah.
And I succeeded on the rouse check anyway, so that's good.
Sounds good. So you don't
5 successes.
lose any hunger.
And
5
I needed
successes.
a blood surge, so that was good.
Good. Excellent. So, yes, you start mingling with people on the dance floor. That's where the people with the lowest inhibitions are. And you attract quite a few stares from many different people over the course of an hour or so. And you find that one of them is very interested in finding a little private booth on the side with you. And, anyone walking past kind of looks in and thinks they should really be going home to do that kind of thing. As Alex sinks his teeth into this individual. An individual with a odd and distinct taste to their vitae. The sense you get from this club is one of desperation and but somewhat ecstatic. The end of a week, time for them to escape the grind. But this one that's joined you in this booth has a sadness to them, an odd melancholy that you can't quite shake. Nothing really, to sink your teeth into, as it were. But it's definitely there. And what that means, folks, in terms of mechanics, is the blood that Alex has just drunk has a certain quality to it that doesn't have a huge mechanical effect, but could potentially have one. It is fleeting and melancholy. And what that essentially means is that if Alex were to want to, is it basically just to gain points in something?
For resonance, I wish to learn a new discipline.
Yeah.
Then I need learn a new discipline power. Then I need to have the correct resonance.
Yeah, and that's what fleeting stuff does. There is also intense and acute that do further effects. But all this means is that were Alex wanting to learn a point of fortitude or obfuscate, they could do. But isn't. So there we go. Arthur, you walk into the after party here and instantly see a few people you recognize from your old days here in London. A little bit older, a few more wrinkles around the eyes and the brow. Not you, of course, but these mortals do insist on getting older. No one you knew really well. No one's kind of go, that's Arthur Norris. But enough people that you get the occasional little wave. What are you doing there? How are you locating this contact of yours, this supplier? Did you get the supplier's name in your initial investigations?
Not sure I did.
Well, let's say you didn't then, because that's more fun, isn't it?
I would be looking for someone who behaves the way I do when I'm dealing. So probably someone who doesn't necessarily stick to a dark corner, takes time mingling around the group, but will occasionally disappear with someone to the bathroom or a spot behind a fern or something.
Sure. Well then, why don't you roll me Resolve and Insight? And I'm going to ask for a difficulty of 3 here as well.
Ooh. So I'm currently just rolling 3 hunger dice, and I don't like that.
I wouldn't.
No.
You know what? You can. Did I say Insight? You know what? You can substitute Streetwise for that if you want. I don't know if that helps.
Goodness. That does. So that gives me an extra 2 dice straight off, and if I can use my specialization of white collar, because they are white collar.
Oh, white collar, streetwise. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, they are. You know, at the very least, you know they're part of this little circle. So yeah.
Which gives me an extra 1 dice, right?
Correct.
So 3 hunger, 3 normal. That feels slightly safer. 5 successes.
Okay, and you were worried. So. It only takes a few minutes of kind of walking backwards and forwards studiously. I'm presuming you're taking, the glasses of champagne are being passed around. You can carry one for appearance's sake. And it only takes you a few minutes before you see, let's say, a suspect individual. He oddly reminds you a little bit of a younger you. He's maybe 20 or 21. Kind of long, floppy, dark hair, dressed in he's dressed in a white shirt, white trousers, white shoes, a white jacket kind of slung over one shoulder, and he's very kind of gregarious and talkative with people around him, but definitely seems to have to keep taking little trips to the toilet, to a corner, into a private booth with people, and then talks very briefly with them afterwards, and then moves on to a different person. It seems to be like low level dealing essentially. Stuff that wouldn't get you into trouble with the bigger fish.
Right. Okay. I will find a point where he's moving from one group to another and try and intercept.
Okay, yeah. He's kind of just walking. He basically walks between groups like, oh, I'm just walking anywhere. I'm just walking around casually, but then definitely arrives at people he talks to and goes off to do business with. And as he's kind of walking along, he doesn't bump into you, but he kind of stands back a bit and says, and raises his glass to you and says, hello, you're new here.
Well, quite old actually, but I've been out of the town for a while.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm Harry. Harry. He holds out
Charles.
a hand to you. Charles. Have I heard of you? Did you used to do the scene?
I did.
Yes, I think I've heard of you. Out of town. Right. Shall we
Take a moment.
Yes. Let's powder our nose.
Hmm.
He kind of takes a swig from the champagne and kind of tosses it into there's a plastic plant planted into a tube by the side of him, and he just kind of tips it off into the top of the tube, and it falls to the bottom, presumably a nightmare for the person who's cleaning it to get it out, and wanders into the toilet.
I will certainly follow him, probably dumping my own full glass. Likewise.
Okay, sure. You wander into the toilet. He wanders over. It's got it's an expensive club toilet. It's got sort of large mirrors, a couple of cubicles, and he wanders over to where someone else who seems to be having a rather bad night is kind of leaning over and kind of staring into the mirror and sort of checking his eyes for being bloodshot or bags or something, and just kind of muttering to himself. And Harry just kind of leans back on the sink next to him and goes, "Oh, buck up." So, well, before we do any business, he gets a pill bottle out of his pocket and just taps two out.
I will take it.
Okay. The pills of these kind have various effects, and some of them affect blood and some of them don't. Just give me a die roll. Let's just tell me if you roll high or low. 1 to 5, 6 to 10.
High.
Okay. It has no effect on you.
Very good.
Harry says, "So, back in town? Looking to pick up your old connections?"
If there's room for me. I wouldn't want to move in on anyone's territory, of course, but
you've seen what I do.
Like
I'm little fish. I've got an uncle who runs a company. It's easy to get a supply.
Of course.
We could discuss some exclusivity. It might be expensive, but it might be worth your while.
Expensive isn't usually a problem for me, so
I like the ponies, This helps.
I see. Well, perhaps if you outsource your distribution, you'll be able to spend more time watching your horse racing.
I have to say, that does appeal. This place is just the fucking worst. Look, all right, let's talk terms. He kind of looks at the guy, like one over, who is sort of slightly jitteringly still examining his eyes and his hands. And Harry leans in and says, "Oh, not mine. That's Benjamin. I've got no fucking clue what he's on."
I'm just going to take a quick look at him.
Mm-hmm.
And say to Harry, professional courtesy. One moment.
Sure.
Is
Are
he?
you proposing a role? Are you trying to analyze what's up with this guy?
Yeah, I'm basically trying to figure out whether it's safe to just shove him out of the room or whether he sort of needs a drink and a sit down.
Sure. Give me a wits plus medicine roll, and have you got a specialty in pharmaceuticals or something like that, or
Yes.
is that placed somewhere else?
Nope, that's in medicine.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and give me that.
Okay. So that's
Difficulty 2.
6 dice. And that is just 2 successes.
Probably could have just taken half on that, couldn't
I? That's true.
Yeah, he's taken something that's cut with something, but he doesn't look like he's about to collapse.
All right.
He also looks like he has really very little clue of what's going on in this room.
He'll be fine. You were saying, Harry.
Harry now enters into, bargaining mode. So I think what we can do is maybe have a little opposed roll. I think that's reasonable, don't you?
We can, but as soon as we start talking business, I'm also turning ore on.
I thought you already had ore on.
Well, I had it on at the door. I don't know if it stays on permanently.
I don't see why it wouldn't. It's just on off, isn't it? There's no rouse check, so you can use it for any social role you want. Well, why don't you give me then? It's your choice of how you deal with him, right? So but you know what? I think he's experienced enough that you're not going to charm the money out of him or the supply out of him. So I'd say what we're looking at probably is a manipulation plus finance roll. I
also have a finance specialty in dirty dealings.
I think it's safe to say this counts, yes. So let's do that, and I won't roll it. I'll just set his amount that he gets, and let's call it. Sorry, I just need to check something. Neill, can you pop just quickly in the private chat whether when I'm setting an opposition by half an individual's stats, whether I should round up or round down? Thank you, Neill. Round down. Okay, so I'd say, yeah. Okay, how much did you get? And what's your pool?
Oh, my pool is 6. I currently have a messy critical with 5 successes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's try the willpower again.
Okay. Sure.
Well,
Arthur trying to restrain himself a lot tonight. Something about Club Valiant has stretched his nerves.
But I do really like dealing drugs, so...
Who doesn't?
No.
You're gonna let it stand.
Take it. 5 successes with a messy critical.
You go kind of like back and forth a fair bit, and he starts to basically kind of give you the runaround with it. Sort of, you know what these supplies are worth. You know what these pharmaceuticals are worth. You have done this an awful lot, and over the course of a back and forth that stretches over the course of half an hour, you start to get more and more frustrated with this louche fop. Ironic, obviously. And eventually he just keeps lowballing you, and in the end, something inside you snaps, and you just kind of, as you're talking to him, one of your arms almost involuntarily like slams out against the glass of that huge mirror behind him, which partially shatters as you basically slam your fist into it and go and say, well, you tell me, what do you say to him?
I was playing this game and running this city while you were still running around the schoolyard trying to figure out what the hell a Pokemon was. So why don't you stop playing around do business like an adult and give me a real figure.
I appreciate the use of Pokemon in a vampire game, which is very atmospheric. I like to think that Pokemon don't exist in the world of darkness, but we'll
It is
move
a
on from
dark reality, to be fair.
well, maybe there are lots of them then. So he flinches a fair bit. For a moment he saw the beast rising up inside your eyes, and says, "Fucking hell, Arthur! All right, I was just playing around. I've got to get what I can get. All right, we'll do it your way." He agrees to almost the first number you gave him. It is quite a good deal that you've gotten out of him. A very profitable number. He'll be making a little sum off it, but you don't particularly care about what he makes.
It'll be enough to keep him busy. That's all I need.
He arranges that he'll transfer the goods to you on a regular basis. Here, once a week. He says that he knows the owner, so it's a safe spot. And yeah, your work is done here. Benjamin is slumped over on a toilet, crying quietly to himself, and Harry has kind of walks out of the toilets with you, kind of affecting a sort of calm veneer, but you can tell there's a part of him inside that's terrified of you. And he takes another flute of champagne, swigs it back, passes it back to the waiter, the server going around with him, and says, "Get me another fucking one." And then turns to you, his mood seemingly back in place, and says, "Well, I'll see you next week then, Arthur. Good doing business with you." And
I'll see you next week.
Offers you a hand.
One question. Is he calling me Arthur, or...
Sorry. Yeah. He shouldn't be
Good.
calling you Arthur, should he? That's my error. He should be calling you Charles.
That's fine, just as long as this doesn't unravel into something way bigger.
It's not like a weird twist I'm doing or something. I just made a mistake.
That's fine.
So, yeah.
See you next week.
And he almost seems to fight the urge to bow slightly, and walks off, obviously a bit shaken.
Good. I will go and start to mingle.
Okay. How much time are you spending at the after party? It's running on until the small hours of the morning, probably after when you'd need to leave to get back to Down Street safely before the sun comes up.
Well, I agreed to meet Alex downstairs when the club closes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably leave at that point, and then, depending on what Alex says, maybe come back and stay until I need to leave for the sunrise.
Well, that's not long after your conversation with Harry is concluded. So you head downstairs and you can talk to Alex. So bring Neill back on, please. Alex, you have concluded your supper.
I will stay in the booth.
Sure. Is that 2 points of hunger slaked? That's a safe amount, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
No incident. It can be done, despite other members of the coterie.
Hello again,
Go ahead.
Arthur. Have you had a successful business arrangement this evening?
I have. Very successful.
And
did you?
Did you manage to catch an aperitif whilst there?
Not yet.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in that. I had a lovely interaction, which I will not taunt you with until you have had your own desserts. But if you wouldn't mind, this should hopefully not take long.
Go ahead.
I will be brief because I know that the night is not as long as it could be, and you have things you must do, I imagine. I would like you to return the favor to me that I did you earlier this evening.
I suppose that seems fair, doesn't it?
Excellent. Well, that is wonderful. I am so pleased. I will suggest that you tell me when is convenient, given the incident earlier.
Yes. I'll.
For anyone tuning in, the favour earlier is that Arthur drank vitae from Alex to top himself up.
Though not directly.
No, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, Arthur seems to think that matters, but
Yes, I
Neill
will.
is crinkling his forehead, which means that I am wrong. And it does matter.
Doesn't
Can you be bloodbound
Doesn't matter.
from not... I was under the impression you can be bloodbound. It doesn't matter if it's gone in a glass or whatever.
It loses blood binding properties like a second or two after leaving the body.
Then I
Which
am
you'll
wrong.
only know if you read the section on kindred sex, because it's not mentioned anywhere else in the book.
Very well, then.
So it's
But I like-
understandable that may not be a bit you bother to read about blood bonding rules.
No, I didn't
Yeah,
think
that
we
is
were
a
going to
part-
have lots of sex scenes in this chronicle.
It's a
Wow.
part that only a very specific type of fan will sit down and read. But they had to include it. They had to include it.
Hey, I'm not, I'm not complaining about stuff like that. That's in many ways why Vampire became so popular in the 90s. But this stream isn't largely based around vampire sex. So sorry to disappoint. Watch the viewer numbers just crash. Carry on, folks.
Give me some time to prepare myself, and I will let you know when is convenient.
Excellent, Arthur. I wish you a good rest of the evening, and hopefully we can continue this conversation when it is convenient.
Right. Well, I need to get back upstairs, or people are going to start asking where that handsome man in the very nice suit has gone.
I
Okay.
wish you the best of luck.
So I'm assuming Alex is just heading back to Down Street at this point.
In fact, I'll ask that very thing. It's a good point. Would you like me to stick around just in case, or I fear, with the dangers we have seen recently, company on walks around might be useful for all of us. But if I would cramp your style, I am happy to depart now.
I believe I'm planning on staying somewhat after the general crowd is dispersed from the building. So that's very kind of you.
I understand. Well, I will see you tomorrow, perhaps.
Very well. So Alex off out into the night and back to Down Street, or?
Yes, unless there's any remote possibility that I can find people in the club who look enlightened, and might wish to take part or be interested in being invited to some form of discussion.
Well, that would probably be a tough role to make regardless. But I believe Arthur said that Arthur was coming down to talk to you as the club was closing. So
that's fair.
Probably not.
Then no, unless I happen to spot someone who just has that look in their eye.
Has that rampant conspiracy theory glaze. Hey, it's easier now than ever before.
Hey, there was someone in the bathroom upstairs that might listen to you, but
maybe.
No, I'll head back.
Sure. So, Arthur, I'm assuming you're hanging on behind to make a hunting roll?
Yes.
Yes. So I believe this is one of the few occasions we've had so far. In fact, only occasion, Arthur, where your hunting style, which I believe is Scene Queen.
Yes.
It's valid. The people up there are there to be affluent and do drugs.
Awesome.
Those are your people. So why don't you give me the standard Scene Queen roll, and we can put it at difficulty 3.
We'll do that as soon as I find the predator type section, because for some unknown reason I didn't write it. Manipulation and persuasion. That's fine. I'm very prepared.
Yeah, and as I say, it's a difficulty 3.
Difficulty 3 and persuasion, so or also factors in.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Factors into any roll made with that. So yeah.
Oh no. I'm willpowering that.
Okay. You're powering through this willpower tonight.
I didn't go for the last one.
You didn't. To be fair, you did not.
The good news is, I can't botch or get a messy. Ooh.
The good news is I can't possibly. Oh no.
So that is 4, 6, 8. With
Okay.
a critical, a good critical.
A good critical.
A good
Well,
critical.
well now. I believe there's no hard and fast rules for the more successes you get. But our very own Neill has penned a very nice document where he suggests some of these things. And maybe factors in some bits of the book I haven't read as well. And I think it's safe to say that given that I set a target of 3 and you've doubled that you found over the course of the next hour or so, you find 2 very willing individuals who will happily engage in some slightly kinky petting with you for just one or 2 pills. You know, they're happy to be risque with anyone for just 1 or 2 pills. God, you're awful. So it's just so immoral. So
They're consenting.
You found 2 perfectly willing vessels. Neither of them have any particularly notable vitae, but both of them give you definitely flashbacks to your time before having to flee London. You know, actually, no, they won't, because you weren't embraced in London, were you? You were embraced after you fled London.
Yes.
So your time in Paris then, which is where you were embraced. Yes. And then you went to, was it Berlin?
Berlin.
I remember character backstories. It's your time in Berlin then, where this kind of, this was your scene. This is what you did. So you can drink from 2 individuals, which means you can safely have a total of 4 hunger removed. Although you can't go down to 0 unless you actually drain someone dry. So,
yeah, I'm not doing that.
So you can go down to 1 hunger, I imagine.
Yes. Good.
There we go. And after this, are you heading back to Down Street after you said your goodbyes to these unfortunates?
Yes.
Okay, then.
Give them very nice goodbyes and maybe an extra free sample and something to take the edge off in the morning. But
absolutely. Got to try and build that herd.
Yes.
So, I think we can kick John away for now, and let's catch up with Mandrill and Oscar off on their mission of technological larceny, or maybe technological perfectly valid purchase. Who knows? So Mandrill sounded like she had a plan for finding a computer at midnight in London.
I did.
What's this plan?
My plan was to see. I mean, I thought a good place to start would be pawnbrokers, and I assume that pawnbrokers would be open at that time of night, and many of them might sell hardware of a variety of types, and including they might even sell parts.
You know what? That's a bloody good idea, and I am.
But I googled it. They're like none are open.
Yeah, but this is World of Darkness, Justin.
This is World of Darkness.
Darkness. Places are open later, and you know what? I'm a child of the 90s. I grew up playing World of Darkness stuff in the 90s, and if an all-night pawnbroker is in the film The Crow, then as far as I'm concerned, it's also in any World of Darkness game I play.
Yeah, pretty much.
Luckily for you, it is.
In London, anything goes.
Anything goes. Well, why don't you give me a streetwise roll, though? I think that's fair, don't you?
Dear.
And obviously, this isn't going to be in Mayfair. You're not going to get all-night pawnbrokers in Mayfair. But Soho, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
We're all back and forth to Soho tonight, aren't we? So if you want to go to Soho, you know what? Give me a wits plus streetwise roll. And how's Oscar's streetwise, Pierre?
Yeah, how's Oscar's streetwise? Or wits?
I have a point in streetwise, and I was also just sort of thinking a pawnbroker might have been someone who I would have traded with.
I think so. I think that's absolutely valid. Well, what's your wits plus streetwise pool, Oscar? I think it's fine if you make the roll. If Mandrill
4 dice.
3. I'm happy to make the roll, but mine's only 3.
Well, I mean, and Oscar knows Soho, right? That's where his shop is. So
That's true.
if you guys, it's up to you who makes the roll out of the two
No,
of you.
Oscar makes the roll. I am also putting Blush of Life on though before we head out.
Okay, yeah. I think everyone else had already done that for the evening.
I had not.
So absolutely, yeah. But you do have points in Streetwise, correct, Mandrill? At least 1 point.
I have 1 point in Streetwise,
yeah, that's
but not
fine.
as much in Wits.
That's absolutely fine. So tell you what, Oscar, give me a Wits plus Streetwise roll, and you can add 1 die for Mandrill's help there. And also, I'll add a modifier to it because I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing that Oscar would have knowledge of pawnbrokers in his area.
Where do you pick up an old Windows machine?
Exactly. So that's is that a change of circumstance for the character, or an environmental or an external change? Who knows? I'm going to say it's a change of circumstance for the character, which means I modify the dice pool. So I'm going to give you an extra die for that.
Okay, so I'm rolling 6 dice then.
Yeah, and I think well, you know what? I'm going to say the difficulty is 3. So you know what? Do you want to just take half and do it, or do you want to roll and see if you get a nice, tasty critical or something?
I feel like going big or going home, so I'm going to try.
Yes.
So I'm rolling. I got 3 successes, and I'm deciding whether I want to try to willpower reroll to get an even better thing. Let's do that. Let's be wild. 4 successes. Okay.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, you immediately think of a place. You think of a place called Larry's Brokerage.
Oh, I know Larry.
We've had a Harry tonight, and we'll have a Larry as well. Damn it! You actually know him as Lawrence, so I don't get confused and start calling him Harry. Nice enough chap. Bit rough around the edges. Runs a pawnbroker's a couple of blocks away from your shop, and you've dealt with him before. He knows you.
Okay. Yeah, good idea, Mandrill. Let's go. I know this guy.
Great, lead the way.
Sure.
You are you doing any preparation for that? Or do we want to forward to Larry's brokerage?
Yeah.
You head into the store. He's talking to someone who's seems to be selling him some kind of a couple of DVD players that they've no doubt legally procured from somewhere. And he shoos them out of the store after paying a pittance for him, and looks over at you and says, "Oscar."
Lawrence. Nice to see you again. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a few weeks. Afraid we got no books in.
It's a shame. But actually, this evening I'm after something else. My old computer has had it a bit, and I was wondering if you have any sort of anything that I could maybe get to replace it. If you have anything like that.
He says, "Well, now for a friend like you, Oscar," and he reaches under the counter and gets out kind of a plastic crate, like you'd have for recycling. And he gets it out and puts it on the top of the glass counter, and it's just full of laptops.
Okay.
Nice. It's absolutely full of laptops. He glances over at Mandrill and he says, "Evening. Don't you worry about all that, love. Get all sorts in here."
Yeah. Yes, actually, this is my a friend, Sheila, and she's actually a lot more technically savvy than I am. So,
just a few things. I took a computer course a few months ago.
He shrugs and says, "Well, you can have a look at them, love. It's all Latin to me." And he pulls out a few of them and just puts them along the top, and kind of leans over the counter to Oscar and is like, "So, how's business been these days?" And, boring, vaguely friendly chatter ensues.
Yeah. Are any of the... Well, actually, I have no idea whether the laptops are any good.
You really don't. Do you want to see how... I mean, you can just get a laptop, but shall we make a roll to see whether you've managed to pick a decent one?
Yeah, I think what Mandrill is looking for is something that will, something mid-range, basically.
Sure.
But wouldn't be opposed to cannibalizing a few laptops to get something, and preferably something with I think what Mandrill's concerned about is things that are already installed on the computer, so maybe a new hard drive if possible, rather than a second-hand one.
Sure.
I don't know what the second edition does in terms of spying on people, but
NVIDIA or AMD? No. Give me a intelligence plus technology roll, please, and we'll I won't say a difficulty. We'll just see what you get.
4. I got 3 in technology and 3 in intelligence, so it's 6 die, 1 hunger, 4 successes.
This coterie tonight on fire. You can you basically manage to find it has like you find a laptop that has it seems decent enough. It's moderately up to date. It'll certainly do what you want. You also find an external hard drive on a caddy, and what you can simply do is boot it via the empty external drive.
Cool.
And then wipe the main one, and then back and forth. And you can make this. You can flatten this thing and rebuild it.
Cool.
Pretty easily. So yeah, it definitely does the job.
I think we found what we're looking for here, Oscar. This will be great for your new office that you're setting up.
And that's good to hear, Sheila.
Who's making the purchase on this one?
Oh, I think I'm getting this for Oscar for a present. He recently had a special anniversary that I'm sure he'll be remembering for some time.
Yes.
Do you happen to have any old security cameras, things like that, hanging around? Anyone turned anything like that in?
He kind of glances briefly out of the window to check the street and then says, I think I've got a few things in the back.
Well, we're looking to upgrade the security around the store, and that would be really helpful.
He goes around the back and brings out another identically coloured plastic crate that has a load of kind of semi-wired security cameras in it, several of which the wires have been snipped.
Cool.
So they haven't been fully uninstalled in a professional manner.
It's hastily uninstalled. Obviously, they were renovating.
Renovating in a hurry.
Sure.
So you can take your pick of them. What are your resources like, Mandrill?
I have 1 in resources.
Okay.
But I figure Mandrill would have set aside specific money for specifically a security system.
We don't count money. It's just do your resources reflect the purchase? And I would think that resources 1, you can definitely purchase maybe the laptop. Although it's a big purchase for the resources you have. It's
I can cover the
£100. Yeah,
I could cover the others. I have resources too, so
that's absolutely fine.
Was there a group fund for the mission that could be dipped into, or is that not?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Right,
correct me if I'm wrong, but that would have been a coterie background.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
They sent us in very unprepared.
Shh, let's go. That would be great, Oscar, if you could help out with the security.
Yeah, we'll trade gifts. I mean, both of these are my shop, so
that's absolutely fine. And he kind of puts all the stuff in a foldy cardboard box for you to take away.
Cool.
And as he slides it over there, he kind of leans over to Oscar and kind of nudges you slightly in the ribs and says, "Oh, you're in there, mate."
Yes, definitely. I know what you mean, mate.
Oh,
I have no idea what they mean.
It's literally taken me. What number is this? Episode 14, episode 15. It's literally taken me this far to realise that in the TV series of London Ascendant, Oscar Kane is played by David Mitchell.
No, no.
Yes,
because this is just Vampire Peep Show at this moment. Larry packs the stuff up, slides over, and you are free to take it away.
Cool.
As is custom when you buy something.
Yes.
We didn't go for the pay 10 pence a month for 2,000 years.
Yeah, the installation plan. No, Lawrence does not offer that kind of thing.
Okay.
All unmarked bills, please.
I know he mentioned that there weren't any books, but if I'm just like glancing around the shelves, is there anything of like occult
Anything of
significance?
interest?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's.
Whispering doors.
I don't think you're taking your time to look properly, right? So
No,
let's
I'm
have
just-
a wits plus investigation roll. Give me a wits plus investigation roll, and I'll. Let's improvise something interesting. I'm going to set that at difficulty 5.
Okay, I'm rolling 7 dice. Okay, I'm going to do a willpower reroll.
Bestial failure.
Oh God! Give me the goddamn. Give me the code shit.
I got 6 successes.
Oh,
with
what
the
the frick?
reroll. I'm rolling. Yeah,
Oh my word!
it was nearly a critical, messy critical. But
as you're walking along you're just kind of pacing slightly as he boxes up the laptop and security cameras, and you kind of glance down into the jewelry section of his emporium, and can you bring Neill on a second for me, please, Steve? I just want to ask Neill a question because I can't quite recall it.
Dear.
Neill, did Alex tell the coterie about the display that so enraptured them at the art gallery?
No.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Away with you.
Wonder what this jewelry could be.
As you walk past, you glance down and you just get an odd. When you see like a piece of art or some fanciful item of jewelry, and it just piques your interest, and it's a design that reminds you of something, but you're not quite sure what it is. Maybe a design you've seen in artworks before, in books, like old books you've read. But it's a ring, and it's a ring that's seemingly made of bronze, which is quite unusual. And on the surface of it is the image of a small image of a rearing golden bull.
That's interesting.
It's not expensive.
Sure. Okay, if it's not expensive, I'll just go for it. Yep. And also this.
Okay.
Lawrence kind of takes it, polishes it a bit for you, and goes, "Yeah, that'll suit you, Oscar. There you go."
Thank you very much.
Bold of you to assume that it isn't for me.
It is with the best one in the world. It's definitely a man-size ring.
Fair enough. Mandrill has dainty
to
hands.
the point. Yeah, it will not fit Oscar particularly well either. I think we did say Mandrill's kind of athletic, but she's quite short. Right?
Yeah. She's not stocky.
No, she's not built, but she's kind of like a wiry,
terrifyingly powerful.
Short.
But
Yeah.
like
it's
terrifyingly
definitely
powerful.
a ring too big for Mandrill. It just about fit Oscar.
They can be rings can be reshaped.
They
around
absolutely
a
can. Look. I know that over the past 10 minutes, Neill has been talking about blood weddings, or John has been talking about blood weddings in the private chat. But and I'm keen for this romance as much as anyone. But let's gloss over it for now. And
it's oddly mother boy.
Yes. So and then head. So, is there any more business to be done at the brokerage?
I don't think so. If I've got everything I need to set everything up, then
yeah, you definitely do. You might need some bits and pieces to like wire everything together, but you're not going to get that here. You have to probably send one of the ghouls out to get some, some wiring and some
that's on the
solder and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Chuck will know exactly what he's doing. He could probably do this for you, honestly. So
yeah.
So you head out. Are we heading straight back to Down Street?
Yeah, I want to get investigating this.
Yeah.
Thing, unless you have something else to do.
I won't waste the time that it would take to install Linux on it.
Sure. Okay, you head back to Down Street then. So I think it's safe to say that everyone... well, you know what? I think Alex and Mandrill and Oscar will arrive back at Down Street with a couple of hours to spare before dawn, and then Arthur shortly, like an hour or so, or an hour or two after that. So let's bring Neill back on for Alex. What's everyone doing once we get back to your haven?
There's
Trying to point at the right people, but it's really distracting and hard to do.
There's some
These
symbols
people.
going on here.
Yes.
Okay.
Like Alex is
The
sending
only
us
thing I
messages
need-
and flags.
Yeah. I probably need to wait until Mandrel's set up the computer before I can like investigate it. But I
Yeah.
did need to chat to Alex. But
Well, then
I don't know.
I'll do that. I'll set it up
They-
in one of the offices.
Absolutely, and I think it's pushing it tonight for you to kind of set it up
Sure.
and kind of investigate Jack's stuff. But I think you can absolutely sort the computer tonight, like get it ready for tomorrow night. I'm not going to make you roll for it. You've got enough scoring technology that setting
Yeah.
up and wiping a computer and starting fresh with an OS is you can do that.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, then let's have Arthur arrive back. So let's bring on the full coterie for the first time tonight since the recaps. And let's everyone can have conversations they want to have. So let's say Alex, what have you got anything you want to talk about first?
You mean generally, or was
With anyone in particular? For
Well,
the
I was
rest of
already
the
wanting
evening?
to speak with Oscar briefly.
Yes.
Well,
And
I
you
think
had-
it's brief. It depends how long it takes Oscar to think that it should take.
Absolutely, and you had indeed arranged that essentially.
Yes.
So go ahead. Why don't you do that? And it might be worth mentioning, and I'm not trying to force any kind of development here whatsoever, but it might be worth mentioning if that ring you purchased is visible, Oscar, at any point in this conversation.
I am wearing it.
Okay. Alex, why don't you give me a wits plus your choice of insight or alertness roll. And we won't set a difficulty. We'll just determine, or awareness rather, and we'll just determine by how many you got, how quickly you notice this ring. Is that a 4?
Does instincts count? But I'm guessing not.
Hell yes, it counts.
Okay.
I think so.
0 successes.
I have never rolled fully blank dice before. With 7 dice, all of them blank.
Okay.
So, no.
Then.
Willpower.
So no, we'll
Willpower.
Could I roll willpower on that? Because I don't know if it's
Yeah.
too. Okay.
Yeah, you can roll willpower on it.
I mean, the way in which I'm interacting is
You done it again. Amazing.
So I've rolled 10 blank dice.
okay.
Wonderful. So, well, for tonight then, Alex's usual spooky insight is very off, and Alex does not notice the ring tonight. We'll revisit that possibility in the future.
I've got my arms crossed and like the ring is glinting on my finger.
Yeah, sure. Or you've like fiddled with it and it's the wrong way round, and the bull is on the inside of your fist. Regardless, you wanted a conversation. Go ahead.
That was excellent. I've never felt like such an insightful, prophetic, keen Malkavian seer as I do right now. I will. Where is Oscar at the moment? Conference rooms, lying around.
I am sort of kicking, like I'm kind of like fidgeting, waiting for Mandrel to get the computer set up because.
So we're probably in one of the smaller offices, I think,
Yeah.
because we wouldn't want the computer on display in case we have guests over.
Yeah.
So
okay.
an office that we can lock, which is more tucked away.
Yeah, I might be waiting outside the door of that thing.
Sure. I will come in and said, Oscar, good evening.
Alex, yes, of course we.
Yes, I hope this is a good time.
Yeah, good as time as any.
I
hope we
will.
had a good party.
I will gesture down the hallway so we will to wander together. Do you follow?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I suppose I was mainly in it for other purposes, as I'm sure you can imagine, than the partying.
Hmm.
Now, as I said, I feel like there is some kind of tension, Oscar, and I would not like there to be any tension amongst those who I am in the coterie with, as we are all sharing this haven and indeed this mission together.
Yeah, I agree that lack of tension would be good. So, you're saying that you're sorry, presumably?
I am sorry, Oscar. What for? Alex
Right.
looks genuinely confused.
Okay. How much charity do I give you? Well, Alex, I don't know how stupid I think Alex is. It's very difficult. Okay, I think you're sharp, but I have noticed that you're somewhat unusual, so I will spell it out.
Alex looks puzzled.
Death is a serious problem. I don't want to die very strongly. And if you were about to die, I feel, and in fact, if you had died and there was something I could do to bring you back, I would go to quite extensive lengths for you. And it would take something of immense importance, incredible importance, before I considered doing that thing instead of leaving you to die. And I hope it doesn't happen, but I anticipate this mission is going to be somewhat dangerous. And what happened to me might happen to any of us.
Indeed,
And
probably to all of us before this entire encounter is over.
So it's very important to me that doesn't happen. And I would imagine important to you. So help me to understand, Alex, what was so important about what you had to do that leaving me was the best option. Help me to see from your perspective.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the other night?
Yes, I am talking about the other night where I was dead for some amount of time before Mandrel successfully revived me.
Yes.
Yes, that other night.
To recover you quite successfully. She is very resourceful, as Mandrel.
Yes, she is. But also, there is a chance that Mandrel might not be successful one of these days. And in that scenario, where you might be able to help me, I would like to think that I can rely on you. And the fact that you weren't there is, frankly, frustrated me. And
I see. And the fact that Arthur was also not there frustrated you, I take it.
Well, I mean, wasn't Arthur there?
Arthur was there, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Arthur was around. It was you that had vanished, and I thought, believe it or not, the first thought that I had when I came back was that something had happened to you, because I couldn't imagine any possible reason that you would think was of more importance than one of your teammates' lives. But
I see.
I was wrong, and that is why I'm annoyed.
I see. You think there was nothing important. That is most understandable. I understand now. I apologize that this understanding had evaded you, and I had not brought this understanding to you. That is entirely my fault, Oscar.
I agitatedly fiddle with my ring. Okay, so now's your chance. What was so important?
Well, I was not able to be there, Oscar. You see.
Yes, I understand that you are not. But why? Why is the reason? The thing I'm after is why.
Why did you flee when I was in mortal peril?
I mean, even if you were terrified, that's a reasonable answer. But you didn't say that you were terrified, and I don't know if I've seen you particularly spooked.
No, you see. We do not like to talk about this, but you are undoubtedly familiar that my clan is blessed with certain gifts, certain parts of the world that we are attuned to that, sadly, you and the other kindred are not.
I've seen you have some foresight in ways that I couldn't explain.
Yes, and I was trying not to add to the difficulties of an already very difficult evening, for you, of course, in particular. But there were certain things pressing upon me that I needed to be elsewhere, and that if I had not been elsewhere, worse things would have come to all of us, including you, Oscar. I had the distinct awareness and impression that I in particular, was being observed, and I had to lead away these observers, lest. Do you remember the club, Arthur? Was it the first night that we met, Oscar?
Yes, I remember that.
And there were people there.
Yes.
I believe that one of those people saw something in me when they looked at me as I gazed into them, and I had the distinct impression that they were there watching me as Arthur and I were making our way back to the Haven. So I had to divert them away and make sure that they did not find you in such a vulnerable state.
Okay. So you're saying that something similar happened here?
I had the distinct impression that it was about to. In fact, I went to the Tate Britain in order to lose our pursuers. And on my way out, I spotted someone I had seen before observing me. I believe I was able to stop them and lose them again on the way back to the Haven, but I was definitely being followed that night.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that does sound much more reasonable. You'll have to forgive me. It takes a while for most of us to control our emotions to the extent that you seem to be able to, but
fortunately, I have had ample time, and in the art gallery, I was able to sit and observe my surroundings, and it calmed me, even as the inner turmoil beat at me, and even as it beat at my heart and soul.
Okay. So you were having a panic attack. That's fine. I can't be mad at you for that.
I do not think that kindred can have panic attacks, Oscar.
Okay. Well, then I'm still a little confused, but I don't think I feel quite so. Maybe some of that makes some sense to me.
I will put a hand on your shoulder and simply say, unfortunately, Oscar, as we saw with the other coterie, even though our fellow kindred can wreak great damage upon us, it is the humans who really are the threat that we must look out for.
Okay.
It definitely feels like a bridge has been partly rebuilt here, and I think that can take up the rest of the evening for these two members of our coterie. Mandrel as well, building the computer system. Bring everyone back on now, please, Steve. And being as everyone else was occupied, presumably Arthur hasn't managed to interact much with them back in Down Street. So can. What does Arthur spend a spare hour or two doing back at Down Street? Anything? Just something.
Manufacturing pharmaceuticals.
I mean, he's not much in the manufacturing.
It doesn't have to be anything significant, you know.
There's definitely an element of taking stock, but other than that, I think it's at the beginning of the evening. Listen to loud, obnoxious EDM music, and at the end of the evening, probably just listening to the Smiths to cool off a bit.
Oh, there's so much echo in these tunnels, Arthur.
Oh well, I mean, Arthur won't have anything out loud, right? Like, because
no, it'll be
personal possession.
Okay.
Arthur,
like an incredibly old MP3 player.
I can absolutely imagine Arthur kicking back in the ruins of Down Street, listening to the Smiths. So I think that's fine for this evening. We had a lot in, not as in the session. We've still got half an hour to go. But wow, we did an awful lot that night. So why doesn't everyone find their slumber, sleep like the dead, as indeed you are, through the next day, and wake up the next... Actually, no. You know what? That's about to happen, but I had something else. And also, Justin seemed to be about to ask me something. No, okay. Just before you go to sleep through the day, someone else comes back to the Haven. It's Arshad, who walks happily down those the stairs at the front entrance, and wanders over to you as you're all gathering in the chamber where you sleep for your daytime rest, and kind of wanders happily in with a slight smile on his face, and says, "Oh, Oscar, I went and talked to Mistress Casimir.
And
I gave her the message that you'd asked me to give, and she asked me to send a message back to you."
To me or to...
Well, to all of you.
Okay. Is it a spoken message or a...
Yes.
Thank you very much, Arshad. Thank you. Okay. Could you tell us?
Oh, yes, of course. There is to be a meeting, and I am to take you there tomorrow night. All of you.
Huh. Right. Did she sound angry when she was giving you this message?
No, she sounded lovely.
Okay.
Are we here for this, or
Yeah, you're all there for this.
How did she react about talking to the other landlords? Did she seem like that was a good idea or a bad idea?
She said that would be one of the things discussed tomorrow.
Okay.
We've made some waves.
Nice of them not to use our haven as a meeting place.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like me to do through the day, Oscar? I think I can put off sleep for another couple of days if you like.
No, just rest. Be well. Nothing. This was a great favor. Thank you very much, Arshad.
You might need to actually tell him to sleep, Oscar.
Okay, yes, sleep when you need to.
And eat.
Oh,
drink.
He kind of nods at you all with a beatific smile, goes over to just by the door to this room, and curls up into a ball on the floor and is snoring in about 10 seconds.
Nice.
Yes, he'll probably be a little bit literal for a while.
I feel that perhaps we should have our mortal guests supplied with beds as our time goes in making this place more livable for us. Perhaps we should do the same for...
Yes.
Yeah, the guards are currently sleeping on basically benches in their barracks room.
I think like Mandrel maybe has a to-do list of like things to do up in the place, like beds. Yep, that one was not on the list, but
I definitely think Chuck is a bit more resourceful than the rest of them, and has probably at the very least found himself a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
I like how we get bunks, but the ones who are actually,
bunks is a strong word for what you have.
Aren't they old
You've got cots.
cots?
Yeah.
Well, still better than a bench.
Either way, there we go. So you can sleep the day through in Down Street in blissful oblivion, and then you wake the next evening. So everyone needs to rouse check, please.
I have also done some rouse checks to remove the superficial damage that I've taken over some previous sessions.
Okay.
So I'm now up to hunger 3.
Okay.
I failed that one, so I'm now up to hunger 4.
So no use asking you if you're making 3 rouse checks to heal an aggravated damage then, eh?
I mean, I could. It just seems like a very bad idea.
It does.
On average, that's only 1.5 points.
So let's get the blood administration out of the way for the evening. Yes, Arshad said he'd lead you to the meeting fairly early this evening. You probably won't have time to get really anything of significance done. So before that happens, you definitely won't have time to hunt. So is anyone going to drink from the supply of blood bags? The rapidly dwindling supply of blood bags.
I need some of this blood.
I mean, hunger force pretty bad.
Yeah, and I'm about to do something very stressful, which I found makes me hungry.
Yes.
Sure. I need to. Is it okay?
To drink? Is that a question you're asking?
No one's in charge of it directly. So
okay, I stop going towards the.
Drink when you need to. You know.
Yeah, I do. I do need to. Thank you.
Just remember that this is a group resource.
I'm sorry for calling you Sheila.
Says I've had the most blood, I think, from this group resource. So any opportunity to be like, oh yeah, drink all you want, Oscar, but remember it's our blood. It's like
Mandrel's passive aggression literally makes my hands curl. So Oscar, are you drinking? You drinking from?
Yes, I'll drink. I'll drink 2.
What a bastard.
Sure.
Are we? I'll also, when Arshad is up, I'll ask if we are meeting in. I assume we're meeting in a place that is relatively secret.
Yes, and you can have that conversation with him. But Neill has pointed out that drinking blood at hunger 4 triggers a hunger frenzy roll at difficulty 3. But you know what? I'm actually going to waive this because I think that the material in the blood bags is blood for the purposes of your hunger, but I don't think it's enough
session,
to pique the beast, you know.
Last session we kind of made a rule that if you're already drinking to remove hunger, then we ignore that rule. It's kind of like if you're exposed to blood.
We did talk. I think we talked about homebrewing that. I'm not sure we definitely came down
because I was on hunger 4 when I was feeding at the sleep clinic, and I was saying this should trigger a hunger frenzy roll, and we said using the herd to do that we kind of ignored it.
Yeah, well, it's maybe something we'll take offline and have a discussion about. Oh, hey, if anyone in chat or in YouTube comments wants to weigh in on it, do so. But certainly for this one, I feel like it isn't entirely blood because it's suffused with plasma as well. So for these purposes, I think we'll gloss over it this one time, but then we'll discuss later if we want to figure.
Sure.
Yeah. Arshad confirms that indeed it is a location he is not allowed to divulge to you, which he regrets. He'd love to tell you.
Don't tell me. It's okay.
Sure. As all of you raise and kind of get yourselves ready, and Oscar drinks from those blood bags, and as you do so, Arshad is waiting sort of patiently at the foot of the stairs, but anyone can see he's kind of like jiggling one leg slightly, like tapping a foot in subtle impatience.
I might tell Arshad directly to stop doing that if I see it at all, because I believe that these traits should be stamped out in ghouls.
Hey, don't talk to Arshad like that.
If Oscar says that to me, I'll give Oscar a look, but it doesn't stop me from talking to Arshad like that.
Yeah,
sure. Incidentally, if you do tell him to stop, he does stop absolutely immediately.
Good.
There's no time to really do anything before you head off. So I'm assuming there's nothing anyone wants to try and persuade me that they can do last minute.
Nope.
Okay. Arshad leads you up out of Down Street into Mayfair, and then starts walking through the streets of London. Any of you who've spent a considerable amount of time in London, which I think is all of you, more or less, you know what? Give me a... why don't you give me a wits plus Probably streetwise, right? Either streetwise or awareness roll, and anyone who gets 3 successes, put your hand up, and then I'll tell you where we're going. Nope. There we go.
I got 3.
Okay.
I got 3 successes.
So everyone but Oscar, which is kind of worrying because the path leads through Soho, is aware that.
Come all turned around.
Justin, you're our time pathfinder. Can you tell me how long it takes to walk from Mayfair to the City of London, please? As in the absolute heart of London.
Yeah. It takes 56 minutes.
Okay, so not too long. Oscar, it takes you a while to realise that you're going to the very city centre of London. But before long, you all kind of come to that conclusion and realise that you're there. And Arshad leads you through the streets, and he leads you finally to the Guildhall Yard, not so far from St. Paul's Cathedral and the Bank of England, and the site of several art galleries. And one in particular that you realise he's leading you to as he leads you down a set of old, very old stone steps and into past a gate that's guarded by several large, threatening-looking individuals, one of whom you recognise as the overly muscled, shaven-headed ghoul of Helena Casimir. And you emerge out into essentially a large, well-renovated, extremely well-lit archaeological site, the old Roman amphitheatre. And scattered among it are odd, almost kind of cyberpunk aesthetic, Tron-like displays of holograms and kind of information boards that jar massively with the stone underfoot and the rubbled remains of the amphitheatre. And if you think I'm making up a weird location, Steve, please show the photograph.
Oh,
wow.
Yep.
Cool.
Totally normal.
So there over on the left-hand side, you can see kind of where the remains of part of the centre of the amphitheatre were, and stood there among the rubble of eons past are quite a few kindred who you recognise. So going through them one by one, and sooner or later Steve will pop some pictures of them up, but no need to do it now because I'm going to list a few individuals. So of the elders of this mission to reclaim London that you're all on, Wynne is there, the notional leader, the sole member of, as far as you're aware, on this mission of Clan Gangrel, a clan now outcast from the Camarilla. There is Astrid Thomas, the leader of Clan Tremere. There is Gilbert Duane, the leader of Clan Malkavian. And alongside them, there is Cortland Layton, your kind of erstwhile handler on this mission. And accompanying them as well are 2 of the group's heavies, their bodyguards, the fighters and protectors of these elders. Jazz Wentworth, the slick, sociopathic bastard who you've had multiple dealings with, Grendel, known as the Worm-Eaten, that huge hulking Nosferatu beast. And also there is the individual known as La Sombra. Well, not known as La Sombra, the individual of Clan La Sombra, Aurora Van Brand, who got you out of a bit of a scrape between the Second Inquisition and a wandering Sabbat pack. Also stood there over and a little bit away are 2 individuals that you perhaps weren't entirely expecting to see. One who looks fairly intrigued by what's actually going on is Oscar Anasoff, the mouthpiece of the landlords of London, a Nosferatu clad in quite old-fashioned, bulky felt clothing and like an old socialist cap, right? Like a peaked green Russian military cap. And next to him, it's Henry Mears, looking a little uncomfortable. You are waved in by the ghouls. Where are you all going to stand? So on this picture there, imagine over on that left by all the rubble and ruined remains are the members of your mission. And then over by that opposite table on the right-hand side, not too far from each other, but not too close either, stand Oscar Anisoff and Henry Mears.
I think I would want to pay respects to Anisoff as a landlord, and the only well, both the landlords actually, as the only people in London with actual, rank, and then get out of the way and somewhere not be seen. That's me.
I would nod a greeting to the landlords, but stand like, if the two groups are like either side of a square, on one of the squares not occupied, but mostly towards the Camarilla representatives.
Between them?
Yeah. But mostly towards Camarilla.
Sure. I mean, they're all Camarilla.
Mostly towards our guys.
Okay. Oscar?
So it's only Oscar Anisoff, not any of the ones I know.
No.
Not my friend.
Yeah, H is not there now.
Yeah, no. In that case, I will be closer to the side of the elders that we know.
Sure. Alex?
I will do the same as Arthur, but looking to see if our elders are kind of stood in such a way, or looking at us expecting to stand in a particular place. If not, standing between them, but closer to our elders. Like if they as they see us come in, they kind of look at us and kind of look somewhere pointedly, as if to say, "Your place is over there." But otherwise, no, just with Arthur.
So you kind of take your places, and Cortland kind of nods a bit at all of you, and especially at Arthur, who he kind of makes a sort of it's fine kind of gesture at. And Cortland is going to take the floor and start talking. So why don't we bring up Cortland's picture? Unusually not kind of, Jazz and Grendel are flanking the group as a whole, not necessarily Cortland himself, but we can have Jazz up there. He stood near Cortland. Cortland stands forward and says, yes, so this is all very formal. It's nice to see this kind of atmosphere in London. Yes, where it hasn't been for some time, almost like an Elysium in a way. Absolute dead silence.
Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the main reasons we're here, and thank you all incidentally for coming, is yes, Mr. Mears. Henry Mears, kind of well-built, sort of chisel jaw, handsome man in his mid-40s, in a very expensive suit. Kind of looks around a bit, glances briefly at Anisoff, who is looking directly away from him.
Wow.
And at this, he visibly shrinks slightly and kind of steps forward and says, "Yes, Leighton, it's decent enough to see you again." Cortland says, "Yes, so I believe you had a proposal to discuss, yes?" Henry kind of builds himself up a bit more at this and says, "Well, it seems to me this welcome mission from the bigwigs of the Camarilla means that certain normality is about to reassert itself, and I would like to nominate myself personally." A quiet voice cuts right through him and stills the room as Wynne, without stepping forward, without kind of raising himself, even up to his feet, he's kind of slumped against an old, pillared bit of remains and says, "You have no idea what you're fucking talking about." Mia's kind of looks round the room, once offended and slightly panicked. He glances back at Anisoff, glances over, kind of his gaze runs over all the individuals from the mission arrayed against him. He looks at Cortland, at Jazz, at Arthur. Cortland and Jazz are offering him nothing. What are you doing, Arthur?
Nothing.
Mears seems to kind of take one redundant breath, and he builds himself up and says, "Look here, I'm happy to do the Camarill's bidding as much as the next chap, but I'm not sure I should be taking orders from someone whose clan was..." He doesn't reach the end of that sentence. There is a flicker of movement through the room, and instantly Wynne is in front of him. Wynne, still dressed in his kind of bulky dark coat, backhands Mears with a resounding thunderous smack, and Mears flies across the chamber, crumpling against the opposite wall. He kind of starts to pick himself up on his hands and knees, letting out soft mewling noises, and the ghouls at the front, backed up by the towering, mouldering Grendel, walk over to him and just drag him out of the chamber. Wynne gently walks back towards the pillar and leans on it again. Cortland, after a momentary pause, kind of straightens his tie and says, "I don't think there's any need for further unpleasantness, yes? Mr. Anisoff, I'm assuming that Mr. Mears' proposal was not discussed by your little compact of landlords?" Anisoff calmly shakes his head. Good. Well, we understand each other, and it is very important to make this point, Mr. Anisoff, and even Mr. Mears, if he can still hear me out there. We are here under direct orders of the Inner Council, and while we are aware of the politically difficult nature of Master Wynne's origins, shall we say, he is not to be questioned. We are not to be questioned. They, he gestures over at you, your coterie, are not to be questioned. London has been bereft and empty for a long time, Mr. Anisoff, and we respect your territory, we respect your domain, your right to feed, your right to host, your right to hold privilege and power. But London is ours. It is the Camarillas, and we are their representatives. We fully acknowledge that Mr. Mears was acting without the approval of the landlords, and we assume that you also understand that times are changing. Anisoff, kind of a stillness settles on the chamber again, and Anisoff, 20 or 30 seconds, just very briefly nods. Cortland goes, very good. It doesn't do to fight each other, eh? Not when there are such dangers about. Yes, such terrible dangers. So, with that in mind, I will leave it to the respected elders of our little mission to, well, we have a number of things to discuss tonight. Alliances, annex, establishing hierarchy, little missions, oh my. Yes. So, down to brass tacks, I believe. And I think we'll leave it there for the night. I don't like to do these big narrative scenes where I'm just talking to myself too much. But
It was
I
good
felt
scene.
it was somewhat appropriate. And I also felt that everyone would enjoy seeing Henry Mears getting put down in his place swiftly and brutally. So, thank you for watching, everyone. If you've not watched one of our streams before, we do a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So if you've got any questions or comments, do please feel free to post them in, and Steve will post them up for us. In the meantime, I'll read out some stuff. So we've got social media links. They're all down below. Telling Tales RP is what we usually are, but why not check? We've got a YouTube where all the VODs from this channel are stored if you want to watch stuff from the beginning. We run another weekly series, Simba Room, wonderful dark fantasy game, on Wednesday nights. It also starts at 8 o'clock GMT. And this week we are doing our first one-shot, like a longer one-off storyline. And that's taking place this Saturday. We'll be starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock GMT. And we'll be running that for a few hours. And we're playing Alien, the role-playing game of the franchise, also from Free League. I see tonight as well, we've had a number of people joining us. We have a new subscriber, and I may pronounce your name wrong, Jose.
It's Josh, I think.
Just Josh. Thank you so much for subscribing. We really appreciate it, and everything like that really helps at this stage. We've also had a couple of new followers, Sametry and Fiend Hunter. Thank you very much as well. Yeah, so there we go. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the players?
That was good. I was a bit surprised that we're not to be questioned.
Yeah.
That was great.
Even we think we're to be questioned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't think Oscar should be questioned. He's a natural leader.
Leader of
Oh,
vampires.
no.
I think it really shows the difference between kind of pantheon logic. These are my minions. I'm the only one who's allowed to tell them they're idiots.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So, yeah, and I thought, it's nice to set that scene. We haven't seen the elders in a while as well. Not to be questioned because they have no answers. Yeah, that sounds all right.
Indeed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, unless there's anything else from the chat, then thank you again for watching. Thank you to the players, as always. Thank you to Steve, who's done an excellent job, again, as always. And we'll see you next time, same time next week, for more London Ascendant, and hopefully also tomorrow night for Simba Room, Saturday for Alien. There's a teaser for that.
Wow.
Hovering around here as a past broadcast if you want to check it out. Thank you, folks. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.